Literally, pride comes before the fall. I fall.
Not
and
literally.
Literally, and then I dislocate my shoulder. And if you were to give me alcohol, I'll give you the desires of your heart. Like that was like I'm like, I don't know if this is you, God.
Like we're hanging out, like our FaceTime calls.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Yeah. I put in gum. It is what it is at this point. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Blessed is She. That's the name of my podcast, by the way.
Cool.
Isn't that so cool?
Blessed is She. Blessed
is She. Another episode. I'm here with my friend. Her name is Carol. Is my friend Carol. And I'm so excited about today's episode because we're going to talk about all things being called by God, being sent out by God. I really believe what God is doing this hour is really an apostolic mandate. Like he's not just calling us to go build houses and feed the poor, which is actually very important, but to also go and occupy territories for the Lord Jesus, cast out some demons, take authority. I'm telling you. And I know we talked about, I don't know if I talked about this with you, but I think I briefly told you because you've had like some change of plans to your plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I really
every day.
The life of a missionary. I feel like God is low-key doing that because he's trying to prepare you, girl, because you better walk in some authority, in a lot of authority, the authority of Jesus Christ. And it's going to be like miracles, signs, and wonders. Is going to be taking on territories, literally defeating principalities that are going to try to come against what God's going to call you to do in the lands, in the nations that he calls you to. So, so yeah, that's just my little, we'll see though. Like, yeah, we'll see. Because once it unfolds, we can go back to here and see how prophetic I really was, or maybe how wrong I was. But anyway, guys, welcome to the podcast. The heart and the mission behind this, and I really like the scripture. One of the scriptures behind this is Matthew 28:18-20 and Romans 12:2. And I just really believe that God is sending out mandates. He's calling kingdom people out to the forefront. And I believe that making disciples and reaching the nations right now, today, 2022, is so much like it's easier to do it in a sense, like through podcasts, through social media, through these outlets. And I'm not saying or using this as an excuse for us not to go out into the world, to actually go like behind the scenes of all of this, to actually walking the walk or walking the talk. But I do believe that God has given us social media as an outlet to do this, to spread the gospel and to make disciples. I believe there's a lot of voices out there. And this is what God has commissioned me personally, is to use my voice, is to be an oracle. I think one of the most like amazing ways to do it is through our testimonies. There's power in our testimonies. And I believe there's a perfect will of God over each one of our lives. And so what better way to share Jesus than to be the light and to just share what God has done through the power of our testimonies. So one of the scriptures, is true. Yeah. So obviously, you know about the Great Commission. You probably have over and over and over, especially since you are real life missionary. Not real life. Not real life.
I'm a real human. That is true.
Real life being sent out. Matthew 28. Let's do 16. Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee to the mountain which Jesus had appointed for them. This is after Jesus dies and he resurrects. And so he's shown up to the disciples. And when they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. So again, the mandate here, what I believe that God's calling me to do, the heart behind this podcast is to teach. We're all disciples of somebody, of something, whether you know it or not. And so if you've been giving this commissioning, and you've even been given a platform to do it, I believe it's not just an option, it's a responsibility. And when the Bible says, Jesus says, all authority is given to him, therefore he's imparted this authority unto us to be able to carry out the Great Commission. And that word authority is exousia. And that means one of the definitions of it is authority by influence or influence. And so, so I believe as Christians, like, we are the influencers, okay? We're the influencers. We're to go out and teach and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. So the title of this episode will be Send Me, I'll Go. And then this is another, girl, I love me some scripture. So God gave me scripture for everything, okay? Isaiah 6. You know the scripture.
Yep.
Isaiah is called. He's commissioned to be a prophet to Judah specifically, and to be a mouthpiece of God. And so this is where it's titled Send Me, I'll Go, and it's your missionary. And so I'm just here, and I really just want to pick your brain. And also I want to hear all the crazy stuff that you have to do, that God calls you to do, because it's insane. Like, I don't think people really understand. And you really have to have a capacity for being a missionary, right? Like, you can't.
Well, I didn't know what a missionary was until like God called me into it. And then I realized, oh, that makes sense, because he put it in me without me knowing what it was. So.
And that's how you know you're literally called and chosen. Like I said, everyone has a purpose, and God specifically like puts certain things in us.
Yeah.
He prepares those he calls. We don't call ourselves. We can't even we can't.
No, absolutely.
Ourselves.
No, it's not anything that I could do on my own.
But it's so cool and amazing and beautiful when you like look at your life and see what God has placed in you, even before you were a Christian. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. Like, God wired me this.
Oh, yeah. I was just talking to my brother today about how I was just remembering when I was 11 years old, I took this trip. It was like a student ambassador program. I went with a group of students without my parents to Hawaii, studied the language and the culture for like 6 months before I went. And this was when I was 11. Yeah, that was when I was 11. And then I didn't like believe. I mean, I believed God existed, but I didn't really I wasn't thinking about it at all. And the only I had like a moment when I was 11 where I saw the stars in Hawaii, and I remember thinking like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, it was just so out of this world to me. And that was probably my first like God moment without me realizing it at the time.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to when I was 26 years old, and someone gave me a prophetic word about being on a volcano, seeing the stars in Hawaii. And I was like, what? And that was a memory from, when I was 11 that I forgot about. And this man brought it up, and that was the first prophetic word I ever got. I did not believe in prophetic word at that point. I was like, this is fake. Like, this isn't real. But when he spoke to me about like my past, spoke to what I was going through in that present moment, I didn't know, fast forward 2 years later, that I was called to YWAM Ships Kona, which is in Hawaii. Wow. And when I got there, I realized, oh my gosh, that was a prophetic word, not just about like speaking about what was going on in the moment, but he was speaking about
before
where I was going in the future. So it's like past, present, and future.
Yeah, when you were 11, right?
Yeah. So like, just realizing, wow, okay, yeah, God put this in me. I had no idea. I was 11 years old. I didn't know what I was doing.
But it's comforting when that happened. don't you find some kind of comfort that like that you are on the right path? Because God, like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
like God was very intentional in showing you actually, yeah, this isn't even your own desire. Like it's
Like
outside.
what 11-year-old wants to leave their family and like go 12-hour plane ride with other people that they don't really know? Like it's just not.
I love.
Yeah.
It gets me excited. Like the prophetic is kind of hard sometimes, but like stuff like this, it's like, wow, God, like just, yeah, like there's no way you can deny like just the intentionality and love of God when he's so, and I believe he has this for everybody that seeks him or that wants him. Like, does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I believe it's in everybody, but not everybody's chooses to walk into it,
yeah.
or to yeah, not everybody believes that there is more.
So I do want to like touch on your testimony of how, because you said 26. So girl, you came in. I thought you've been done then this
No,
time. Wow.
no,
So
it's
this
been
is,
like it's been less than 2 years since I've been officially like
but
doing this.
before that, God was preparing you for a couple of years or no?
Oh, probably 28 years of my life he's been preparing me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
was like,
yeah,
I
like
want to know like the process, because I remember like you had to quit your job, like you really had to financially.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I want you to talk about that. Like, what was the process of all of that? And did you know even at that time that it was that you were being called to be a missionary? But before we touch on that, I just want to say, what are you like? Where your parents like? Because we
Oh, background?
yeah, like ethnically, yeah.
Oh yeah.
What are you?
So my mom's side, German, Jewish, actually back
And
in the
yeah.
yeah, but out there. But yeah, German. And then my dad's side is Lebanese, Syrian, Turkish. But yeah, easier to say Lebanese.
Lebanese. So
Yeah.
just a little backstory on how we met. We actually met. You know, I don't know why it was a mission trip for y'all. It was a mission trip for me too, boo. Like it was a whole mission. That trip was a whole mission. Just going to Brazil was a whole mission. But God called us to Brazil separately. I mean, we didn't know each other. So we met at a camp, farm school of Reformation and Revival. And she happened in, even though we were all together, all the international girls were together in the same house, we ended up being in the same room. And we
actually
the COVID house. What?
Oh yeah. No, I actually was gonna be in a different room, but at the last minute I switched and then we got placed together.
Yo. And I remember like walking in because they were there way before us because they had this whole adventure. So y'all were already set up. And so when we come to set up our stuff, it was like these two girls. You were kind of like you're very, I don't know. Do you think you've changed since being at the farm, or were you just more reserved?
Back at the farm?
Yeah.
I think just I was leading and not knowing what was going on. Like, I was just,
we were overwhelmed.
I was a little like, what's going on? And it takes me time sometimes, just in general, my personality. I can be very out there, but it takes me time to get there. So I have to like observe the surroundings, and I'm like, yeah. But it was serious. It was a lot at once, and I was just like,
yeah, we were all shook. First of all,
because it wasn't my plan to do it. That wasn't my plan to do this school. So I was like,
end up there.
How did the farm?
Because you guys did not plan on that. God called you guys to Brazil, right? To take your YWAM. What is it called?
Mission? We were a Bible core course. We were in. This is a school, an outreach team.
Your outreach was in Brazil.
Yeah. While I was staffing the school, we just, as a staff team, were praying about outreach, and we decided like, yeah, we should take a team to Brazil. Now, I was not planning on going, let alone leading it, but God really put it in my heart to keep praying for it, because my plan was something else. I was planning to stay in Hawaii and then moving to Italy. So anyway, I was like, well, I'm not going, but somebody else should go. Yeah. But then God spoke to me and he's like, nope, you're going and you're going to lead this team. And then he spoke to me, like, he spoke to me twice in a dream about going to not just Brazil. So we confirmed we're going to Brazil and we were going to go to Dunamis. But then after we decided, yes, we're going to Dunamis, which is in Sao Paulo area, then he spoke to me 2 times in a dream about going to the Amazon. And that's when I was like, nah, no.
Wait, so you had
no.
dreams at the farm?
No, before.
Oh.
In like a few months before the farm.
Wow.
But our plan was to go to Dunamis, and we were gonna we did do this. We were doing seminars teaching the Bible around the churches locally there. But then when we got there, we had no idea what greenhouse was. Like, we did not know anything about it. We didn't really know anything about Dunamis in general. So we just came clueless.
I could have sworn they said that you guys came last minute. Like, oh, we have this whole...
To do the school. To do the school, yeah. We were going to be at Dunamis. We were staying at Dunamis, but we weren't going to participate in greenhouse.
So you guys were staying on the farm.
Yeah, we were staying on the farm, but we weren't going to do greenhouse. So that was a last minute thing.
Who convinced you to do the school?
The team, they just started saying, we really feel like we want to do this school.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Like, and I, again, like, as I was like trying to plan and like, what are we going to do as a team? I was like, this is not what I thought we would, like, what? But then when we prayed, like, I was like, if everybody agrees, there was 8 of us. Yeah, 8 of us. If everybody agrees, then we'll do it. And everybody agreed. I mean, some people were a little more like frustrated about it because they didn't have the money for it right away, but like, God came through for all of us. And we're like, so that's why I was a little like, what are we doing? Like, I did not sign up. I didn't know we were signing up for this, but
me too. I felt the same. I mean, I knew I signed up for it, but I was also like, what is going on? What is going on? But yeah, so that's how we met. And honestly, we talked, but like, I don't know. We were like cool, but it wasn't like, deep.
Well, then we all got COVID and all this stuff. So
yeah, even at the COVID house, I minded my business. I was sleeping.
That was the best part, honestly.
Listen, I kind of have to agree. Like, that was like, we could just step back from all the what was going on. Like, bam, 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 bam. I was pissed at first. Like, everybody knew I was pissed. Like, everybody knew. I didn't hide it. But ended up being a blessing because it was actually an answered prayer. Like, I literally asked the Lord, I said, Lord, I need somewhere to pray. And like, I feel like a lot is going on. And I didn't understand that what was going on. It was all spiritual. Like, I could feel everything, but I also had the peace of God. So I feel like you kind of also have that gift, the gift of discerning of spirits, and you sense a lot as well. You also definitely operate in the prophetic, and God's giving you a prophetic gift. And so I'd like to shout that out to our Arab side, to our Lebanese side. So your testimony. So how did you know? Because a lot of people don't know. Like, sometimes people have this feeling, this desire, like they want to be missionary. Maybe they're called to be a missionary, but like, how do they know it's God? Or how did you know it was God? How do you know that God was calling you? And then what was the process of, like, you just woke up one day and all of a sudden you're...
Oh, no, definitely not. No. Definitely not. It was like really been a journey. There was no just like light switch moment. It's just been a process of continually growing in the Lord, like growing in my faith, growing in who I am, who God created me to be, what gifts and talents do I have, what desires do I have. And like, before I was even a Christian, like, I just had this really deep desire to like travel and live in other countries, which is like a basic desire, but like, it just it gripped me so hard. Like, I just couldn't shake it. I would cry about it when I was like not a believer. I used to think about Italy. Like, I would think about living in Italy, and I would I would cry because I wanted to live there so bad, but I didn't know how, and I didn't think I ever really would. But like, I tried to in my own way. I moved to Europe. I moved to Spain, and yeah, I moved to Barcelona when I was 23. Like I went to college, studied fashion merchandising, worked in the
Wow.
industry for a year. I was like, I can't do this. There has to be more to the world. Quit and then moved to Spain, taught English there. And looking back, I'm like, this was me like literally going in faith. Like I had faith in myself. I didn't have faith in God. I thought
Wow.
I could do it on my own. But
Wah, wah.
yeah, like literally like learning how to teach English and then like trying to find an apartment in a foreign country. Not really, I mean, I spoke some Spanish, but not that great. Got like robbed, got all this stuff happened.
Oh my
But it
God.
was crazy. But yes, but I had this deep desire to live in another culture, to live in another country, and I just wanted to like be immersed in this. So
Yeah.
anyway, when I like after a year of living there, I got saved because I came back to the States and I was like, I do not want to live in the US. I don't want to live here, but I don't know what else to do because I can't work. I can't work anywhere else. I was illegally living in Spain, like without papers. So I'm like,
Oh
this is
my God.
not okay. So yeah, like,
Oh my God.
so I moved back to the US and then I was like, I'm gonna move to California because if I have to live in this country, I want to move to the West Coast. And that would solve all my problems. But anyway, I got saved when I moved there. And again, and then I kind of like was at ground zero. I was like, okay, God, like I clearly have messed up my own life and my like trying to do things my way. Let me
Yeah.
try things your way. Let me seek you first.
Amen.
And through seeking him first, seek first his kingdom, the rest shall be. I started to see like, okay, I'm seeking God. And then, oh, I got a job. Oh, then I got an apartment that I needed. And then I got a car. And then I got a community that, whatever.
Yeah.
So I slowly was just like, wow, like learning that God, like from the beginning, God is the one who provides, not me. It's
Hmm.
not me and my self efforts, my
Yeah.
extreme striving, because that was my worldview was like thinking, oh, if you just work hard enough at something, you'll achieve it. But this time when I was moved to California and like nothing was working out the way I had planned it was so out of my control. And anyway, so I started to realize like, oh no, it's God. And then, um, yeah, I still had this desire. I'm like, okay, I just need to find a way to like make money and travel. Like, so I was trying to become a digital nomad. I wanted
Um,
to learn graphic skills, photography skills. I'm like, I want to learn these skills so I can live abroad. That was
wow.
always my ambition. Um,
Wow.
and then about a year later, I encounter this photography storytelling discipleship training school in Mexico with YWAM. And I was like, what is this? Like, I never knew something like this existed. And I'm like, I started crying when I watched the video and I knew, I
Wow.
was like, yeah, I have to do this. But my logical brain was like, well, I don't have money for this, so I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to do it next year. I'll save money, blah, blah, blah. But
Wow.
that door closed, like shut, like so hard. And it was like a weird, like it would just shouldn't have, it was just strange.
Yeah.
So I just like knew, yeah. So long story short, when I went to this discipleship training school, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Up until this point, was 26 years old. I grew up going to church, but I really wasn't like immersed in like Christian culture in any way. So I showed up and I was so culture shocked by Christian culture, by
Wow.
like people like always talking about Jesus. And I was like, I mean, I was a believer at this point for like a year, but I was just like, wow. Well, I thought this was like a photography school, like with also God, but like mostly photography, So yeah. Anyway, so that was a very refining season for me. Yeah. Of like, what is my
Okay.
priorities?
So that's actually a really great point. Because in the scripture in Isaiah 6, where Isaiah is commissioned, before that, as he encounters God, he's in his presence, he encounters the Lord. One of the first things he says is he's a man of unclean lips, right? So his sin is cut, like when you're because of the Lord, like things just be getting exposed. Okay, that is what it is. And
Oh yeah.
there was a seraphim, I believe an angel came and it cleansed his mouth. And then the Lord said, whom shall we send? And then he was commissioned. So there's always, I feel like it really is a process. And God
Refinement.
starts
Oh
with
yeah.
that purification and refinement, and then you're sent out. And so I feel like a lot of people kind of skip that part or don't really talk about it. So I want you to kind
Mm.
of talk about that a little bit more in
Oh,
detail. I mean,
okay.
yeah, like some like couple
Yeah.
things, like what are some things that God had to deal with in you before he could commission you out? Because I mean, and we continually grow, we continually get purified, but especially in the beginning,
Yeah. Yeah.
foundational things that God always takes care of.
Yeah. So probably one of the first things first, pride. Pride.
Wow.
Number one. Second, um, convicting me about my drinking habits. So I used to be a pretty big partier, and I had slowed down a bit with it by that time. But for about 10 years of my life, I was a very active partier, like drinker. And so it was still a part of my life. Like, I just never could imagine my life without it.
Wow.
And in that season, God really convicted me, like, would you give me out? If you were to give me alcohol, I'll give you the desires of your heart. Like, that was like, I'm like, I don't know if this is you, God.
No, but yeah.
But if this is, then
Do this
I no, I didn't want to let it go.
Oh wow.
That's when I recognized, like, oh, I don't even know if this is true or not, but if it is, like, that's kind of pathetic. So that's when it triggered in me a recognition that, oh, this is a deep weed that is deep in there. And I was like, yeah, so I
so what broke
was really struggling. Well, it was a really hard decision to make, but I finally was like, I can't imagine my life without it, but
wow,
I'll try it for 1 year.
God would not play with that, because first of all, it's not just drinking, it's the fact that it was an idol in your life because you couldn't live without it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, I just, yeah. So just because it was my lifestyle for so long, like, I just didn't know life without it. So anyway, so I was like, God, I don't know. I'll try for 1 year. So I, like, bargained with God, and I was like, I'll give it up for 1 year.
Wow.
So anyway, that was like in that season. And it wasn't hard when I was doing this discipleship school, because I was around people we were all like doing mission. It was great. Like, I had no problem not drinking.
Right.
It was more when it ended, and, like, sticking to, like, oh, I would still go to the bar with people, but I just wouldn't drink. And, like, just, but
you yourself, you putting yourself in some
no. What God showed me after a year, the anniversary of the day I said, or the last time I drank, I just felt physical shackles break off my body. Wow. Like, but he showed me it was fear of man. That's what it was. It wasn't alcohol itself. It was fear of man.
Why? Yeah. So what does that mean?
Because it was like, I was afraid of what people would think if I didn't drink.
Wow. So you did it
of me, because I placed my identity in it.
Wow.
That was and so it wasn't, like, necessarily the substance itself, but just, oh, well, who am I without this, and what are people going to think? All my friends, if this is all we've done our whole lives, like, and if I'm not drinking, like, are they gonna still want to be my friends? Or
okay, let's talk about that, because one thing about God, he's gonna take people away. Like, did you lose all your friends?
Well, I was, like, living somewhere else, so it kind of made it God's grace kind of helped a lot. But yeah, it was hard. But I saw one of my friends, like, she later, like, was inspired to give up alcohol herself. Wow. So I was just like to try it for at least, she's like, if you did it for a year, I'm gonna try it for 100 days. And, like, so it was just cool. Like, I was like, I never would have thought. Anyway, that was, so I'd say, so pride, fear of man. And then the third one, so this is this is now more in the time frame where God was starting to really call me into mission. Fear of lack, like, not having money. I was working 4 part-time jobs / like freelance gigs, at the time. And then that's when God was like, okay, I want you to quit this job. I want you to quit this job, and I want you to trust me with money. And I was like, ah, what do you mean? I'm living in California. It's pretty expensive and I like need to pay my rent every month. And he led me to a ministry school, a school of ministry, back in San Diego. And so I was in this, and like, I was really being countered by the Holy Spirit so much, like to the point where I was just like, so like, I don't know, like I was just so at peace with God that I was like, I was like, my brain was offended at the thought of like this, but I just knew in my heart that it was like my brain logically was like, why would you quit your jobs? Like, it wasn't all at once, but it was that and trusting him with finances. But then also it was breaking off fear of rejection and self-image, dying to my self-image. Because I was in this ministry school. So many people gave me prophetic words about missions. And that's when I was like, no, I like didn't want to admit it. I was like,
don't we all, bro? Where they're like, you're like,
I was like, but I knew, but like, basically God was like removing the things that were keeping me from actually pursuing it, which was feeling the need to work. So self-sufficiency and pride, I'd say, are the biggest one. And then
lies. They're all lies. From the end.
But that's like all of our American culture. It's self-sufficiency and pride is basically, so it completely counteracts everything about our nation and the way everybody lives for the most part, So it took like not taking it away, but asking me to surrender my jobs and then my car. That's when I knew. I was like, okay, I guess I'm not staying here. And at that point I had given up on my dreams to like travel. I was like, I'm ready to like settle. I'm 27 now, I'm like, I'm like, okay to like lay low for a little bit and then travel later. Maybe, I'll save up some money. But
what did you think you're going to do? Like work for the Lord there or what?
At that time?
Yeah. Settle doing what?
Like, I'll find like a graphic design job. I was looking for graphic design jobs because I like self-taught myself. It was, I didn't have a good plan. I'm not going to lie. It was not that solid, but he led me to a point where I literally like was hanging off by a cliff. And I'm like, I have no choice
but to yourself. That's what it is. Every one of us, every believer, every Christian, it is dying to it's literally where you come to the end of yourself and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Actually, I don't have this. Literally, what is life? Like, what is my own strength? What is my own plans? You know what, God? I'm gonna do it your way. However, I don't know I'm doing
it. I'll backtrack a little bit. When I was in my discipleship school, when I went on outreach, I was in Nepal and I dislocated my shoulder. And in that it was like a crazy experience, but I was like, I ran away from my group, not ran away, but I was like, I need to be by myself, need to be independent. And what happens? I fall into a lake. Like literally pride comes before the fall. I fall.
Not literally.
Literally. And then I dislocated my shoulder and I had to yell for help for 15 minutes. It was so pathetic. Wow. And nobody speaks English.
And then finally, that's scary. What in the world?
Oh, it was terrifying. And then my team finally found me and like rescued me. But that was when God like showed me my pride in asking for help, like not wanting to ask anyone for help. And then I had dislocated shoulder. I couldn't dress myself. I couldn't wash my hair. We went trekking in the Himalayas, and I couldn't carry my own backpack. I was so pissed. That I couldn't carry my own backpack, like because I couldn't be independent.
Yeah.
I
was like, because here's something. God has to kill that in us, because one of the things I was talking about this in like the first episode of the podcast with my friends, the gates of hell don't prevail against what? The church. And the church is made up of what? All of us, not just the one of us, all of us. And this is why the Bible also says there's such a heavy emphasis in unity, the spirit of unity. And where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I will be. There's where a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. So there's a heavy emphasis. There's a power, and there's spiritually, there's something like strength, power in unity. And so when you have
for
that
sure,
one
yeah.
person that is prideful, that is trying to be self-sufficient, that is acting out of fear, out of rejection, out of all of this, you actually allow an open door for the enemy to come and do whatever he want to do. And so, yeah, it makes sense. Like you can't do this. Number one, relying on the Lord. There's nothing, like literally it will never be outside. It'll never be in your own strength, because God will never share his glory with anybody. And so people will know that it's truly God upon your life. And it's God. I can't take credit for nothing. And then number two, it's unity. It's being, it's literally dying to yourself.
Yeah. So again, like I wasn't actively trying to like be refined. This was like,
not actively.
You know what I mean?
Actively trying to be, Lord, yes, I'm here purifying. I mean, I guess we do kind of.
I mean, some people they say it, but I don't know if they really know what that means. Yeah. Because I always am like, you know, that song Another in a Fire, whatever, in the last like month this song keeps showing up. I'm like, God, I don't really want to be like, I know that's like that means like purification is coming. Like I don't really want that. Like
you better surrender. Me in the fighting dive in. It's like you're trying to fight. Like
no, girl. Like, come on. Can I just go into like the pool? You know, like, I don't want to be in the fire.
It'd be like that. It would be like that. But you know what? That happens because obviously God doesn't take care of everything all at one time. Usually it's
we would die.
Yeah, literally we'll be like, deuces, like I'm out. So it's always before you're about to step into something that God has for you. And that's where it really is. There's a transition you're about to step into, because we go from glory to glory. And so what happens is God is calling you higher, because there is something for you up here. And one prayer that I really love is that I was just listening to it like this past week, and she said this, and I'm like, that's such a good prayer. I'm praying it over people and myself, that may our character never, may our mantle never surpass our character. Usually what happens where men fall is where the character is below the mantle. Your character needs to be here or up here, then your mantle, the power that you operate in, the gifts that you operate in, the Spirit of God that's upon you, the anointing. And so, and it's a beautiful thing. It's painful, but it's a beautiful thing, because I never want to lose my soul. I would rather go through this and come out on the other side purified and you know, intact in the Lord, than to lose my salvation and like being blind and like, oh yeah, I'm doing all this work for the Lord, I'm doing all of this, but your character is trapped.
For sure. No. Yeah,
because it's by our fruits that we're known. Like, and we know we're walking in the perfect will of God when that is. We know that we're sons of God when we go through that.
Yeah. So no, it's true, because you can get distracted by the show,
blinded,
and then lose sight of the fruits of the Spirit, which are not the same as
the character,
signs and wonders and miracles, which is obviously manifestation of.
Yeah, they follow those who believe. Yeah. The signs and the wonders.
But that is different than your character.
Yes, and also if you don't go through refinement and all of that, and you do have a prophetic gift and a prophetic calling, like you're gonna be operating out of demonic powers. That's just what it is. You're gonna be in error. So that is okay. But okay, I'm actually kind of I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little shook that you like. I'm shook, but I'm like, yeah, this is totally God. The fact that you broke because of the way God deals, like the way.
No, because he was,
I be telling you, I'm like, God's dealing with me. My eye started acting out, and he told me, and I was like, why is my eye like this? And he told me, you better take the speck out of your own eye before you try to, what is it? Not the speck. You better take bulldozer out of your own eye, like out of your neighbors. And so God really like when, but it's so beautiful though. Like you're like, what the heck is going on? But at the same time, you're like, wow, God, you really need
yeah. I mean, it's again like I didn't think I needed help. I didn't think I needed healing.
Yeah.
That's, you know, so from that point when I dislocated my shoulder, I realized that the external pain that I was in was reflecting internal pain. Well, like there was internal pain in my heart that I had never dealt with.
Yeah.
And it exposed it to me. And I was finally humble enough to realize, oh, I've actually been hurt like by some things. And I finally invited Jesus to like heal me in my heart. And so it started a process of healing for me. But up until that point, I wouldn't have asked for healing. Yeah. And I would have thought I was fine. I would have been like, I'm good.
Wow.
Like I was like in my school, like, I don't know why everybody's saying they need healing because I'm fine. Like,
oh my God, not that.
Yeah, listen, my classmates still say, they're like, you are the least likely person we thought would be in missions right now, like staffing. I was like, yeah, I know.
You see the manifestation of God's glory and power.
Oh yeah.
But you know, that's one of the reasons I was kind of running away from my own, like when God was calling me and all of that, because I was like, oh yeah, I'm down. Like I'll be a martyr for the kingdom of God. Like, yeah, I'm hard. You know, I tell people to their face, Jesus Christ is the Lord. You better give your life to, like that was, I'm like, yeah. And then God's like, yeah, I'm not asking you for that. I'm asking you to actually live for me. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Because when you live for the Lord, you have to die to yourself like every day. And that's a more painful death than a physical death. We know we're going to go see Jesus. We're going to go, you know. But yes, there is a purification. There's a processing that you do have to go through.
And it doesn't end. It's not like
never ends.
One and done, but I like to think that sometimes, and then it happens again, and I'm like, wait, no, I already went through this, like, and now it's just another level, like another layer. Like, come on, like, with my passport right now.
I think we get this like a little bit of amnesia. You get through it, and then you're like soaring, things are moving, all of that, and then you come to another. You're like, oh, there's more. Oh, I thought I was good, Lord.
Perfect. I'm great now. Lord can use me for the rest of my life.
So, do you think you'll be doing this for the rest of your life?
Well, you know, I like when I first got called, when God was first calling me into it, and I was asked to commit to 2 years, I freaked out over 2 years.
Wow.
And then within the first year, God was like, if I asked you to do this for the rest of your life, would you say yes? And I was like,
I like how God asks you questions because,
well, you know,
he does do that.
It's a choice. But yeah, so I just felt like an invitation to surrender that. And I'm like, okay, God, if that is what you have for me, within the span of 1 year, I was able to like open my heart to that idea. But at first, before I stepped into it, it freaked me out. It just was too big for me. I was like, I'm not able to like conceive that in my mind to do more than 2 years. I was like, maybe 3 or 4, but now I'm like, if this is the rest of my life, I mean, that's challenging and it is still overwhelming, but at the same time, I just
you deal with it with so much grace. So we met at the farm, and I really think God was very strategic in the people that I met because I just see it just a little bit, because when I went, I was like, I'm not trying to meet nobody. No, I'm not like that, but I really was like, making friends was at the very back of my mind.
No,
yeah. For me, because I'm a people person, but that atmosphere was another thing. Okay, but God dealt with me, so it's all good. But anyway, I'm seeing though how beautiful it is, how intentional God was and is by my world tour that I just went on. My world tour. You know, the trips that I went on. And you guys, for some of y'all that don't know that you're listening, watching, in June or May, my first trip, like I went to like, I don't even know how many places, 5, 6.
Kansas City.
back to back to back to back. And the first place he took that this all started was go to Kansas City, Missouri to the Send. And I remember, you guys, like something crazy happened, like to stir up my spirit to go. And I didn't plan on going, number one, because I was like, Kansas City, like, bruh. Number two, I didn't plan on going because I thought, the Dunamis Dallas was going to happen, and it was back to back. So I was like, I'm not going to spend my money there. I have to spend my money in this other school or whatever. But it ended up being canceled. And so I had tickets for the Send and everything. But I was very apprehensive. I didn't have a group. I didn't plan, like nothing. And I met these random strangers who stirred up my spirit at a Publix parking lot because they had a sticker of the Send in their car. And I started talking to them, and they were like, come, you can stay at our hotel. Yeah, all of this stuff. Like, you can hang with us. And so I was like, okay, but they didn't have a ride for me. And the only ride that God had for me was leaving on that Thursday, but the people were not going to be there till Friday, right? I think Friday or something like that, or Wednesday. I don't know, something like that. So the ride situation didn't add up. So I didn't have a place to stay. And I was just like, yo, maybe this is not God because this stuff is not lining up. But I remember, like, randomly, I called you, or I saw your Instagram post because you.
Yeah, it was Instagram.
You're like, goodbye to Hawaii. I'm like, where's this girl going? So
you just said, where are you going?
I messaged you. I was like, where are you going? Where are you off to next? And then you text, because you don't be on Instagram. You're not on your phone anyway a lot, to be honest. You're not.
Try to.
You messaged me, and it was like nighttime. And it was like around 1 a.m. my time, I think. 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. my time.
I mean, it was nighttime Hawaii time.
Okay. So, I don't know what happened, but you were like, I'm going to the Send. And I was like, wait. So I call you. And
as I'm boarding the plane.
As you were boarding the plane to go to the Send. And I'm like, girl, I don't know if I should go. I don't know, I'm going to sleep. But I feel like let to go. And like, I don't know what to do. And like the people that I was driving with, they didn't have room for me. And I'm not trying to sleep. Like, it was a lot of them. And so I was like, they were not. And anyway, I was not going to impose myself on them. But they offered me a ride to ride with them. But I didn't have a place to stay. And I called you, and you were like, I remember I was like, she's like, you were like, I'm about to board my plane. But you were like, just go. Like, go by faith. I was like, wait, but I know I'm going to sleep. You're like, just go. Like, what did you say? Because you were like, you guys didn't know. Like, how things happened for you guys for the Send was also very last minute.
Yeah.
Like, literally, God.
And we were a group of 6.
And you guys didn't know you were going to sleep. And then somebody opened up their home. So it kind of gave me a little piece because she was like, we're staying with the host family, and I can ask, but I want to ask in person. So I can't give you an answer till like later on today. So I was like, well, my ride leaves in 3 hours. And you were like, just go. And I really feel like an impartation of faith happened during that phone call, because I was just like, something came over me. I was like, I'm going. I'm literally, it's 3 a.m. I'm like getting my suitcase from my basement. I start packing my stuff, and I'm like, wow, I'm really going. I got to find a ride. Thankfully, my brother was in town, and I was like, hey, yo, I'm going to need a ride to the airport. I said, not the airport, but I told him the airport because I'm like, I got to meet people downtown anyway. I need a ride to, to meet the people that I'm riding with. Like, it was just this whole thing. But something like, I don't know, like, it was like, girl, I went from like double-minded, I don't know, I'm scared, to like, you know what? Let's go. So I go, and I didn't know where I was going to sleep. I didn't know what was going to happen. And it ended up literally working out. Like, your host family was so welcoming. And then you were also the only girl in your group. And So, and we literally, I felt like I was part of the team. I was a wine drinker. I was being fat for the weekend. Like, I learned what fat is. Like, what is it? Flexible, adaptable, and teachable. Right?
Teachable. Uh-huh.
It's like I went to one of y'all's trainings. It was so beautiful. Like, it was amazing. So, yeah, I mean, and I know that there's even through my own experience, like going back, something fired up in me to like trust God to go when he said to go to Dallas, to go. At first I was like, Dallas, I don't know. And then I needed an extra push for Dallas, to the Dominican, and then to LA, and then to Houston. So it was just like God used that. Okay. God used that to show me that he really is our father, and to trust him, and that he really makes a way out of no way. When he calls you, like, it really is up to him. If it's his will, it's his bill.
Yeah.
Period. You know, we just gotta be
obedient. Yeah. It's funny because I like preach it all the time, and I've lived it, and it's just like right now going through the same. I'm like, oh,
it's okay. That's why I'm here to remind you. But in this also this whole conversation, because it is like, you handle it. I feel like you're so chill with it. Like, you when things, I didn't even today I called her like for the podcast, and she's like, girl, somebody stole my passport, and they tried, like, they teared up my birth certificate. Like, she finally was gonna get her passport and her visa back after months. For 6 months you didn't have it.
Yeah, as soon as I got back from Brazil, I sent in my passport in March. And so
there was so much
yesterday, which is July, April, May, June, July, 4 months later.
4 months.
I got it.
And you didn't know if even you guys were gonna get you were denied at first, actually, right?
It seemed like we were gonna get denied, but we appealed, and then we got approved. And then
a lot.
Now my passport is seemingly stolen, or somehow got shredded in a machine of some sort, but I think it looks like it was like torn in half completely, taped back together without my passport in it. So yesterday I had to go file for a new passport. And it's the thing is, because God has called me to the nations, like he keeps reminding me, like, I've called you to the nations, I've called you to the nations. And what is being stolen from me? My ability to leave
nations. But also,
yeah,
God said to wait though. So
yeah, I know. I knew. So it's okay. Yeah. It's like, I know he said to wait, but it's just like, really? Like, it's just like, yeah. But I'm like, maybe he told me to wait because he knew this was going to happen. You know what I mean? Like,
maybe,
like, I don't know.
And he gave you other plans that you definitely did not like plan on at all.
Oh no, this entire year has been nothing of my plans at all. Thinking that I have a plan and then being like, no.
But it's still there. And what's beautiful is you had this desire to be to not be a missionary, to live in Italy, and God gave you back that desire. Like, it was actually a God-given desire. You just tried to do it out of your own flesh and worldly.
Yeah.
Tried to infiltrate God's perfect will and plan for your life. So it's beautiful. Like, when you surrender to God, you truly give up. You come to God and you really seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. All things will be given. And this was me. Like, I used to dream of doing YouTube and I would do like makeup stuff. And then when I got the baptism, God said, "Skirt, I'm called. You're called. You chosen. Like, give up your life." And I'm like, okay. I gave up my dreams. I was like, okay, I won't be in business. I won't be in this. I won't do that. But then God's like, pick up your phone, start making TikToks. Then he's like, start doing podcasts, start sharing what I've been doing in your life, start like doing all of this. So God really, like, God is not some evil, like, tormented person. Like, he really,
it's like this, wants to strip these things away that are maybe distracting you, or like,
or idols.
Or like, he wants to get you solely as you
with him, just me and
with him. And then when you can get like grounded enough in that, then it's like, okay, he gives things back. He does. And sometimes again, you have to surrender it again. And I'm like,
Yeah. And sometimes,
again.
listen, some things I'll pray for that I wanted, then God said, no, absolutely not. And you know what? I thank God that He didn't answer that prayer with a yes. But other things, it really is. He tests our hearts too. And it's like now, but now it's like, you're okay if you don't live in Italy. But if it does happen, it's like it's beautiful, you know, like for me, this is I'm like, I'm actually really good not doing any of this. I'm doing it out of obedience, and it does, you know, it lights a fire in me, but it's not my worth, it's not my identity. If God takes it
Yeah.
away, as long as as long as we have the Lord, as long as we're being obedient and we're in His perfect will and doing things His way, that's literally all I want. He removes the cares of this world out of you. And it's just like, Jesus, like you're it. Like you're more than enough, like for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like a challenge too. Like when we were in Kansas City, I remember hearing a sermon. It was like talking about delays, and when delays happen, sometimes you can get discouraged, and then discouragement turns into
Yeah.
like unbelief, and then you can get like jaded and all this stuff. So it's like,
Yeah.
am I gonna let that take root in my heart, or am I just gonna like even admit to myself or to God that like I am disappointed, or
Yeah.
but to allow Him into that, but also
Go ahead.
to, because that can lead to then like creating your own plans again when
Yeah.
you get discouraged and whatever, and like, oh, God's promise, God said this, and now this is how things look, let me like take things and do this my way. It
That's
starts
what
to slowly
yeah.
so yeah,
And
needing.
He's been teaching me that too. Because especially when you operate in the prophetic, so you see in part, okay, you prophesy in part, see in part, know in part, whatever. There's this part God's teaching me that like I know what His will is, like His promises, like He said, this is my will for your life, I have this and that for you. But where we kind of mess up is His way. His way is higher than ours. So the way that God wants to do it is not the same way we imagine it to
Yeah.
be. But
Oh, yeah.
also, the enemy does try to come and cause, there's demonic delays and then there's God delays. But one way to number one, I really think, I don't know why I'm just telling you all this stuff, but I think God is going to grow you. I didn't mean to do this, y'all, but God's going to grow you in spiritual warfare. Because and to discern what is from God, what is from the enemy, and what is from the enemy, you snatch back, because you have that authority and you have that power to take it back and to be on guard and vigilant. So like if God shows you things in dreams, like somebody intercepting your passport or whatever, then you go and you war for that. You war for your prophetic word, and you contend for it through prayer and fasting. Then there's when there is this delay even in out of ourselves, because the promised land was snatched out from the Israelites, not because God is evil or wicked. They did it because it was their own doing. And so they had to learn, and they didn't learn this, to not complain, to murmur against what God has said and is doing. And also unbelief is another way that you can abort the promises of God over your life, because you're the one who gives up. You're the one who leaves. You're the one who goes their own way, rather than just being like, you know what, God, Luke 1:45, blessed is she who believed that the Lord would fulfill all of His promises to her. That's what Elizabeth said to Mary. People will call you blessed when they see that you stood your ground when God spoke what He spoke, and not in a way where you idolized it, because then you don't murmur, you don't complain, you don't do all of that. You're like, okay, God, I don't know what's going on, but my focus is still going to be on you. And what is your way? What do you want me to do in regards to this problem, this issue, this delay, this whatever? So, and it's to be honest with God. And that's the beautiful thing about having a relationship with Jesus and all of that. Sorry, I just said a mouthful, but I
all good.
up in here, but, you know. But yeah,
Sorry.
I think that's what God's gonna has started doing since the farm, and maybe even before.
Yeah, I mean, it's been my word for this year has been can't be contained. So every time I try to like, God, this is how things are gonna go. Nope. Nope. Not my no.
And I want to just wrap it up. All right. Well, this concludes today's episode. Carol, thank you so much for being on. And if you just want to share your social media where people can find you, your photography, she sells, what do you sell? I don't know, girl, you go ahead. You know better.
Wait, how do I share it? On just verbally?
Yeah, verbally, and then I'll put it in the bio. Like,
okay.
At your website.
Oh, okay. Yeah, at CA Aaliyah for Instagram, or at neighbor_project. That's my secondary. And I'm still working on a website, and it is called candorcollective.com. So I'll show you the link. So maybe by the time it's posted, it'll be live. So that's for photography.
Blog,
I'm putting my blog. I'm moving my blog to that website. Okay. So yeah.
She does photography and she sells it. So if you want to support her missions, support a missionary, you can purchase her work. It's really beautiful. And also the Instagram is kind of like, what is it? The humanity page, like.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like somewhat inspired by Humans of New York, but just in the sense of like,
but with mission.
Yeah, just Jesus. Yeah, with God in there. Yeah,
just with the Lord. It's a Christian one, yes. So she shares like stories about people that she encounters in her travels and her missions, and highlights them, their work, whatever it is. You have a heart for, well, you can share. You have a heart for justice and also just I don't want to say the poor, but yet like underprivileged.
Yeah, just like, I don't know. It's just. It's mercy, I guess, is what it's called. Like, as a gift of mercy. Yeah, just seeing people where they're at and seeing past the outside and like getting to see them for who they really are. Amen. Which takes time, and you have to remove the distractions, and you have to giving people attention.
Being intentional.
Being intentional. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it. And then you guys know where to find me, kind of, sort of. Thank you to everyone who watched or listened to this episode. Leave us comments, your thoughts, questions, or wherever you're tuning in about this episode and what you thought, how it's helped you, how it impacted you. We would love to hear your feedback. I love you. Thanks for doing this.
Love you. Of course. Thanks for inviting me.
Bye.
Masalame.
Bye.